Thursday show with Practical CBT, offering online tools for better mental well-being. We have a raft of different stories to tackle today, so just going to fire through them. No faff today, starting with the latest on our search for a new manager. That's still going on. So yesterday afternoon, Anthony Joseph at Sky Sports reported that we have been holding talks in London this week with various managerial targets. So we've drawn up a short list of candidates. I think that was initially understood to have like 8 people on it. Not sure if there's still 8 potential Celtic managers out there or if it's been whittled down a bit. I would seem to think that it's probably been whittled down because I think, a few that were maybe on the initial list of potentially pulled out at this stage for whatever reason. So we've got Wilfred Nancy, Cheto Knutsen and Kieran McKenna. They're believed to be among the names that we're considering. That's according to Sky Sports. Certainly saw it reported earlier in a few places that neither Knutsen or Nicky Hyen, the Club Brugge manager, have been having the discussions in London. I doubt that Kieran McKenna has, because surely we'd have to approach Ipswich for some sort of permission there. And even Wilfred Nancy is currently the manager of a team, Columbus Crew, in the MLS. So I'm kind of questioning who's been interviewed here. Are there people being interviewed that we don't even know about? Quite possibly. But yeah, it's a bit of a kind of puzzler here. But I guess the main point here is that Celtic appear to be moving things along, and maybe there's an outside chance that we'll have a new manager in place for the St Mirren game in 9 days' time. Sky also saying that we're due to sit down with Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney to discuss their futures beyond the break. So yeah, it's really a waiting game. What I would say is I don't think it's going to be long until one of the kind of well-known, respected journalists like Stephen McGowan or David Freo or someone else comes up with a big exclusive on this and we really get a steer as to where Celtic are heading with this. I guess we've maybe already had that with the Wilfred Nancy stuff a couple of days ago. But yeah, I think we're going to get a big scoop, an old-fashioned scoop in the next few days. And yeah, until then, it's a bit of a waiting game. So we'll leave the new manager chat there for now and pick that up at a later date, probably tomorrow. Because there's plenty of other things I want to cover today, kind of focusing on different players, things going on. Perhaps unsurprisingly, talk of Daizen Maeda leaving the club in January. This is from Scott Burns at the Daily Record. The crux of the article is that sources close to Maeda have confirmed that there is still strong interest in him going into the new year and he could finally leave. It's also said that our recruitment team has already started to look at attacking options and possible replacements. Clearly there was a very real interest in Maeda in the summer. We know that because he said he was very close to leaving. Brentford have always been a club that have been mentioned. I believe interest in the Bundesliga as well. I think a Spanish club as well. One of the V's. It's quite a few V's in Spain. But, interest in Maeda, I think, for a number of places. So, yeah, I mean, it seems quite likely that he would leave, just given that he was so close to leaving in the summer. I'm not sure if we can afford to let him go right at the start of the window, though, as much as that might be, his ideal situation. The reason I say that is that, we've obviously got a bit of a grim injury situation. To be honest, rolling it back a bit, we've got a bit of a grim squad situation at the moment. When you add injuries to that, and also the kind of likelihood of Sebastian Tounekti and Michel-Ange Balikwisha being at AFCON, quite possibly Kelechi Iheanacho as well. And if you were to add Daizen Maeda leaving early in the window, we have the prospect of a front three of James Forrest, Johnny Kenny and Hyun Jun Yang for some very big games. And that's not ideal at all. So yeah, it's a bit of a grim squad situation there. In terms of Daizen, we're going to have to replace him. And I was thinking, we haven't replaced Nicholas Kuhn yet, clearly, because, you see our right wing. We haven't replaced Kyogo Furuhashi. And now, adding to that, we're probably going to have to replace Daizen. So, yeah, work cut out for the club. Just as well, we've got just an excellent recruitment set up at the club, led by Paul Tisdale, who does cover other things, just functions so well there. They've probably got like replacements lined up and are just ready to go anyway, so we really shouldn't worry. Did mention injuries there. Could probably do without any more in the attacking areas. News yesterday that Sebastian Tounekti has pulled out of the Tunisia squad. They're playing some friendly matches. They have already qualified for next summer's World Cup. I think they've got 3 friendly matches, one of which is a game against Brazil, which is seen as clearly quite a glamorous game for Tunisia. Story with Tounekti. Celtic are reportedly keen for him to get a 10-day break because of a suspected injury. I think I saw it reported as a thigh injury. He came off with around about 10 minutes to go on Sunday. I kind of went back to watch him going off, and he didn't look particularly happy going off. But I mean, he might have been unhappy with his own performance, but I think it was more, reading between the lines, to do with maybe him carrying some sort of a knock. You may also remember that going back to the last international break last month, there was a bit of chat about him carrying a knock as well. I think he missed one of Tunisia's matches during that break. So clearly with, can we call it an ultramarathon now? Brendan Rodgers has left. I think so. With this ultramarathon coming up, we've already got a number of injuries. We're already stretched as it is. We really need to take care of Tounekti, because he's like one of the real nailed-on starters in our team for virtually every match. I think he started virtually every match since he came to the club. So hopefully he's okay. Hopefully this is just precautionary. He can get a good 10-day rest and be all right for St Mirren. Other injured winger news now, slightly more upbeat. Jota took to Instagram last night. First post in 7 weeks. Nothing to do with football at all. Just introducing his new dog, Mr. Cowboy. Jota is blonde now, in case you weren't aware. We're expecting him back sometime in the early part of next year. I really don't think we should be expecting Jota to come back flying and suddenly be one of our top players again. This is an incredibly serious injury, an injury that some people kind of never get back to their top level again. Now, Jota is clearly taken on this injury as you would expect him to. Very philosophical about things. Will be using it to benefit himself in the best ways he can, whether that's mental or physical. And I do expect him to come back and hopefully get back to the level that we know he can play at. But certainly for this season, I'm just looking to get Jota bedded back in, and hopefully next season we can then start seeing, really good things from him again. Also, a bit of chat from Kasper Schmeichel on his situation. He's out of contract with us at the end of this season. He's been speaking about that while away on international duty with Denmark. Rather nobly, he says, the club has bigger things to think about than my contract right now. We have always had an agreement that we will talk about the future quietly in February or March. We have to see where we stand by then. Right now, we have a special situation at the club, so my focus is not on my contract at all. So February or March for the discussions with Kasper Schmeichel. I was looking back, and we actually announced his contract extension last season in January, so a little bit earlier than that. I think, generally speaking, that most people probably expect this to be Kasper's final year at Celtic. He's just turned 39, I think. And, even more so with the World Cup on. At the end of the season next summer, obviously Denmark is still to qualify there, and they will come up against Steve Clarke's Scotland, which we know will not be easy. But if they do get there, that would seem like a natural endpoint for him. But to be fair, that's not anything he said. That's just other people's conjecture. And he's always been consistent in saying that, while he feels good, he'll continue to play and really just try and enjoy every minute of playing for a club like Celtic. I genuinely believe Kasper Schmeichel is loving playing for Celtic, even in some of the struggles that we've had this season. And even though Brendan Rodgers has departed, I think he's genuinely loving it. But yeah, Joe Hart kind of stepped away before he really regressed, and I thought that was, incredibly, incredible thing for Joe Hart to do. Will Kasper do the same thing and allow someone like Wilson Azalo to step up next season? I do still think that's the likely scenario. I'm not saying Kasper staying on is like something we should completely write off as a possibility, but I don't know why I just struggle to see it. 2 years has always felt the right amount of time for Kasper, and I think things will play out that way. So yeah, I mean, again, it's going to be interesting, just an interesting subplot of the season if the club do announce maybe in February, March, or even April that Kasper is going to leave the club or even possibly retire. Does that then become a big theme of the closing months of the season, like the Joe Hart stuff was? I don't think it would be to the same extent, because I feel like Joe Hart was kind of more ingrained at Celtic and obviously had done 3 years rather than potentially Kasper's 2. But that could be something to look out for late in the season. Final story for today. I realise I've kind of been rapidly going through things, but that's kind of how I wanted this video to go. Confirmation from Hibernian yesterday that they have cut our allocation for our next trip to Easter Road, which is at the end of the month. So it's basically like half of the stand we'll receive now. There have been games in the past where that has been the case, and then we've kind of gone back to the full stand. But I think for every team other than Hearts now, Hibs only give half of their away stand. So another blow to the Celtic fan who travels around the country. It's going to be harder to get tickets. Sadly, that's the way things are going here. Probably have Rangers to thank for that. I feel like they were one of the first teams to do it when they cut our allocation back in 2018. So yeah, that's the way things are going, and don't expect things to change, really, unless Scottish football gets to the point where the clubs badly need the money again. So yeah, not a great development there, but that game at the end of the month, and hopefully the performance in the day and the result will give there's still thousands of Celtic fans there plenty to cheer about. Yeah, that's your lot for today. As I say, the manager stuff is going to keep rolling on. I do think we're going to start getting a bit of an indication which road Celtic are going down. My own hunch is that it could potentially be Wilfred Nancy. I just think Celtic kind of like to think that way. And the fact we had so much success with an out there appointment with Ange Postecoglou a number of years ago, I just think they might look at something similar with Nancy. I know thoughts have kind of been pretty wide-ranging on him. Majority of you probably not for that appointment. I'm certainly on the more open to it side. I think he has, done some good things as a manager, succeeded, won some trophies. I think he plays a nice brand of football, and I think he would be a good fit for Celtic, although I acknowledge there's some things to maybe be a bit concerned about. The fact that he hasn't ever had a job of this size, and the fact that we're a bit of a basket case at the moment. And I guess for whatever new manager is coming in, they're going to be inheriting a pretty kind of weak squad, and even more so one with a lot of injuries at the moment. And the next few months might be a bit of a struggle. That's maybe an argument to keep Martin O'Neill on for a little bit longer, because it feels like while it's nothing massively spectacular, although we have had a couple of really big wins, it does feel like Martin O'Neill has steadied the ship, and we will kind of keep winning domestically. But it also does seem like Celtic are going to appoint a manager pretty soon, which, yeah, I think is a good move. It means that we can all move on and get going with something new. Kieran McKenna's still a possibility. There might be something happening there. I don't think the Cheto Knutson stuff is going to happen at all. I just don't see that at all. Not even sure really where that's coming from, other than like fan and media chat. But again, it could be another name out there that we've not heard of yet. I'm sure there'll be developments tomorrow, and that's when I'll speak to you next.